Hello, and welcome back to the Mid-Am Podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Tyler Munns, and on the other side of the screen from me is my good friend Nathan Furumasu.
Hello.
And this evening, or this morning, or whenever you're listening, we are joined by Michael Leonard of Wicked Smart Golf.
Appreciate you guys having me on. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, of course. If you've been a follower of the pod, you would know, or you would recognize the name at the very least. If you didn't already know who Michael was, aside from us, our second installment of Book Club was Wicked Smart Golf, and so as you know, listeners, I have been on a tournament golf kick as of late, and so we wanted to get Michael on, not only to give him an opportunity to kind of dive in a little bit deeper on who he is and his relationship with the game of golf and what he's doing with Wicked Smart Golf, but I've got questions. The last time that we talked was when I was on your pod, Michael, and that was, gosh, right after I think my first real tournament experience, which was the Mid-Am qualifier, the Oregon Mid-Am qualifier, which went super, super well. And so, yeah, I think now that I've gone through another 13 competition events since then, my perspective on tournament play has changed a little bit, or it's matured. And so, yeah, I've got, I know I have some pointed questions, and I know Nathan does as well. So, but before we do, just want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of the Mid-Am podcast, Adele Golf.
Hello.
You've heard it all before, but Adele makes great product. You can check them out at Adele Golf. That's EDELGOLF.com. Yeah.
In the vein of Wicked Smart Golf, it's another thing you could do to improve without changing your swing is buy Adele golf clubs.
Love
right,
that.
yeah.
Love that. Equipment is a big part of playing Wicked Smart. You got to have the right sticks, otherwise you're making this game even harder.
Absolutely. Well, that's a good spot for us to, I guess, for us to jump in. So, Michael, tell us a little bit about who you are, your relationship with the game, past, present, in future, I guess, and then what you're doing with Wicked Smart Golf.
Yeah, thanks again, guys. I appreciate you having me on, and I would probably identify as a golf sicko at this point. I mean, anybody that quits their corporate world job to go all in and try and pursue professional golf at 29 and build an online business. The game bit me pretty hard for part two after I played very unsuccessfully in college for a few years, and just kind of got into going through life and graduating and moving and doing stuff. Just kind of stopped playing as much, and always loved it though growing up. And so eventually I got to a place where I really wanted to try online entrepreneurship out. Really fell back in love with golf hard in 2016 and 2017, and ended up, like I said, leaving corporate America to go all in and give it a shot. And just I never wanted to end up with a bunch of regrets and say, I was pretty good at golf, maybe I could have made it, maybe not. So kind of a childhood dream. And, I kind of went all in on it. Didn't know I was going to start a golf business like this. Wicked Smart Golf was started 2 years ago now, a little over 2 years. And so basically it's better golf without swing changes. So since then, since quitting my job, I've played in about 300 tournament days, including Q School, just all in on this brand. I love helping golfers play better without swing changes. And Wicked Smart Golf is a podcast, book, YouTube channel, basically a 5-pillar approach to play better without changing your swing, because I'm far from a swing instructor. But I just wanted to tackle a side of the game that I felt like was very neglected, and wanted to just help people have a little bit more fun and hopefully play a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that is especially, I think it's especially important for right now because of what COVID did for the game of golf. You've got this this huge influx of new players who now have potentially been playing the game for 4 years. And I would imagine there's quite a few of them that have kind of quickly, if you're semi-athletic, if you have decent hand-eye coordination, it is not rocket science to get halfway decent at golf. But at a certain point, the amount of work you can do on your swing, you hit diminishing returns and you get stuck in, like kind of this no man's land of how do I'm hitting the ball pretty good, but my scores aren't changing. But how can I do it? Because like, I've said it a few times in the last couple of weeks, really, in talking with Nathan, because it's a kind of a new realization for me, because I worked a ton over 2 years to like improve my technical skills. And now I'm at a point even now, and I've been playing for a long time, and in like cerebrally, I know that the mental approach is super important. All of the greats have always said that, the mental part of the game is where winners, separate, like lift and separate from the field. But you just don't really understand that until you get to a point where it's like, I cannot flush a 9-iron any better than I am right now. Like I can't hit it better, but I'm still not, I'm still getting these rogue, 1 or 2 double bogeys around. I'm still like, missing these like really weird 2 and 3 foot putts. Like I'm still 3-putting from 15 feet. Like just all these, like these little things that are, I can't attribute to technical issues anymore. Now it's something else. And so, in reading your book and listening to your podcast, watching YouTube videos, and interacting with you on social media, I think you've done a really good job at highlighting, at the very least, like posing that question to people to say, like, have you considered that there are parts of your game that you could change tomorrow if you just like sat down and thought about it? And so I guess my first question would be, if you had, like, say you were going into, you got randomly paired up with someone, and you in some kind of like best ball or scramble type tournament, and they were, mid handicap, maybe like a 10, and you've got 15 minutes with them on the range before you guys tee off. What are you going to tell them to say that you could say, like, hey, I don't even need to touch. I don't even need to look at your swing. I don't need to watch you putt. But if you focused on these 3 things, like, you're going to play some of the best golf that you've played in a while.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say the first thing I would tell them is to just go out there and not worry about the result. I think that the biggest problem is that most people go out there and they want to shoot 99 for the first time, or 85 or 72, whatever their score goal is, and they just put that out there. And it just gets us into result thinking, gets us into thinking in the future, and takes away from the present moment. So that's the biggest mistake I feel like I see with all types of skill players, whether you're, tournament golfer or you're just getting started. Like, everybody, of course, wants to play their best every single time. But I think that when we attach the result and we even put a number out there beforehand, I know I used to do that before one-day qualifiers. It never went well. And so I would say that's the first thing, is to let's just focus on what we can control today. Second thing would be to just play your game. When you play in tournaments, it's easy to worry about the other players and try and hit the driver they're hitting, or, hit this long iron on this club or on this par 3 when you would normally hit a hybrid or fairway wood. So it's easy to get kind of intimidated or try and play like others and change your game. So I would tell them, hey, let's get away from the results. Let's play your game. And I would say the last thing would just be as committed as you can on every single shot. That's the number one thing I tell all my mental golf coaching students, is that the goal is not to win a tournament. It's not to shoot your lowest score. Of course, those are big outcome goals that you want to set at the beginning of the year. But at the end of the day, when you're in the trenches and you're out there, I want you to just be as committed and confident as you can. I want you to really analyze your lie. I want you to get clear about how that ball is going to jump out of the rough. I want you to get clear about where that ball is going to go in the hole on the greens. I want you to get clear about your landing spot when you're chipping. Like, give yourself as much clarity as you can, so that way you're setting yourself up to hit the best shot. It doesn't mean you're never going to hit bad shots, but at least it gets you in the right position. Because too many golfers are standing over it saying, don't hit it in the water, or I can't believe I still 3-putted that last hole.
Mm-hmm.
They're just time travelers out there. So I really want golfers to get away from going forward or backwards and just focus on right then and there. So that way you're in the present moment, you're able to make the best decisions, and you're going to set yourself up to swing with confidence. Too many, again, are just out there trying to not screw up versus actually playing to win and playing, to hit a good shot. So those would probably be the first 3 things I tell any golfer.
Dense.
Sorry.
Dense.
The third one, the being committed, I think, I would especially like folks that are maybe still in a position that where there could be some technical improvements that can still be made. And like, maybe they're, like a majority of the shots they hit aren't great shots. What is a way, or even very
So I
highly
would, I
skilled
would
players
challenge
that,
I would challenge you there, because a lot of times people think they have technical issues. And don't get me wrong, we all
okay.
have technical issues. We're always working towards it. But a lot of times technical issues are disguised as technical. People think they're technical issues when they're just mental issues. Because like, again, bad shots are part of golf. No matter how good you get, you're going to hit some bad shots. Ben Hogan
Right.
said he would hit 3 great shots around. So it's game of misses. But a lot of times people, will be like, hey, I'm really good on the range, but I'm terrible on the course.
Mhm.
They think it's a mechanical breakdown. But, like my coach told me, your swing motion doesn't break down from that first, or from the driving range to the first tee. It's a mental breakdown at that point.
Mhm.
So you're always going to have room to improve on the swing. You see those guys still grinding on their swing. Scotty Scheffler has that grip trainer he's using all the time. So like, you think the number one player in the world would be able to figure out his grip by now, but he's still working on it. So it's
Yeah.
like, it just goes to show that we're always trying to get better. But I just like the mental side and different aspects of course management, because it helps you control the controllables. And when you are committed, your misses are going to be a little bit smaller, and you're not going to have as many blow up holes, and you're not going to be able to react as poorly. So I think that, yeah, we're always going to have that. I mean, I'm, +2 handicap. I still hit some pretty ugly shots sometimes. So I think people get too worked up and, oh, I hit that bad. And then they start playing golf swing out there, and they think about the lesson or the YouTube video they just watched, or the, swing tip they saw yesterday. And it's just easy to get out of your flow and get out of your process. So yeah, keep working on your swing. Absolutely. But start working on your mental game too. Start working on your routines. Start working on those things. I think that, again, you'll find that when your mental game is better and you have the right processes, that you won't have as many technical breakdowns, because you're more committed on every swing.
That's something I've been trying to. I mean, that was one of my goals that we, when we established our goals for this year, that was one of my things, is like, I really want to iron out my processes. And I was, I was texting Tyler even just today about a round I played on Saturday, and I was gonna ask you kind of about this, because have you ever run into an instance? Essentially, I'm that guy. I'm a legend on the driving range, and even actually on the course I do pretty well, but just off the tee I struggle, and not necessarily only with driver, like even par threes off the tee, or if I'm even hitting less than driver off the tee, whatever. I went back through my round and was kind of like hole by hole, like, okay, yeah, no, I was just out of position. I was just out of position, out of position, out of position. And it's just, and I feel like I've kind of narrowed it down to like, okay, I'm doing something. I like, there's some sort of misstep here, because if I have it on the range and I have it in the fairway or around the greens, and then, but for whatever reason on the tee box, it's like starting the hole is
Like
a struggle for me.
a great example of this is when we were playing out at Astoria. He had some like super, it actually was one of his better driving days, but like he has been going through this kind of like issue with the driver. So he'll hit these just like these like left of left misses out of nowhere, but then he hit one of the best driver off the decks I've ever seen in my entire life. And he's like, I've never even tried this. Like, it's not
Yeah.
technical. Like
No, I can do
it is
it.
not technical for him, because I've seen
Yeah.
him hit some of the purest shots ever, just if he's in the fairway, in the rough or whatever. But it's like, as soon as we're on a tee box, like something changes. And I would add on to that, like, or like days where you're just like, I don't have, like, just something's off, timing's off. I'm not feeling it. How do you get into that? Be like, okay, even though something feels weird on the tee, or I am not feeling it, like the swing just feels off today. How do you still get into this like commitment mindset of be like, I'm going to commit to this shot, even though I'm not super confident that I can pull it off, because like it just doesn't feel right today?
Yeah. And I mean, oh no, actually go ahead. Yeah.
No, yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, it's kind of a two-part question, because I mean, like, for example, Nathan, I'd love to like learn a little bit more just about like what you said. Just so for example, when you're on the range, first off, do your stats show that you're as bad of a driver as you think you are?
Yes, I think so.
So that's of the 4 strokes gain. That's the least popular one for you right now.
Oh yeah. I struggle. Yeah.
And then on the driving, and then how do you feel about your equipment? Everything's, I mean, obviously that's all dialed. Nothing,
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
I think so. I'm really happy with it. You know, I don't think. Yeah, when I hit it well, it you know, it's not like too spinny. The flight's a good trajectory.
Perfect.
I don't feel like I'm losing yardage or anything like that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I always start there just because again, we're not great at self-assessing sometimes. And you know, I've had rounds where I'm like, damn, I was so good on the greens. And then I look at my stats and they were not the case. So it's like, sometimes it's always good to have the data, right?
Yeah,
so I think that's good. Equipment also, especially as you get better and better, swinging faster, you need the right equipment. So it sounds like those are things I always check with first. So then let's go to the range. Okay. So on the driving range, what's your go-to shot? Fade or draw?
Lately I've been trying to dial in a fairway finder. So I'm teeing it low and trying to hit like a straight ball that falls right. So just a little cut, basically.
So if you don't do a fairway finder, you still try and play a fade then?
Yes. I mean, I'm pretty much exclusively trying to hit that shot off the tee right now.
Perfect. That's what we're looking for. So when you're on the range and you are hitting it pretty good, you're hitting just pretty much a baby fade, whether it's fairway finder or normal. And then
or straight.
What's your miss on the range? Is it a pull or an overslice?
I would say it's probably a little bit of an overcut.
Okay. And then what happens when you get on the golf course?
If I know.
So it's an inconsistent miss. So it's some left, some right.
On the course, it becomes two ways. Traditionally, it's always been a hook, which is why I've been trying to dial in, you know, a better fairway finder type of thing.
So do you play? So do you feel like a fade is easier for you to hit or a draw? Because you said a hook, so that made me feel like you used to play a draw.
For me to play, I can't tone down a hook. Like I've never had a draw. I've had a sling and hook or
So perfect. So it sounds like you got this right stuff, right? We're doing all the right stuff in practice. And then all of a sudden something's changing on the course. Like I just said before, your mechanics aren't going to break down that much. You're probably going to hit some left and right. I mean, even the pros hit 58% of fairways, scratch golfers hit 50%. So yeah, you're going to miss fairways. I mean, I think that it's really about sending it as much as you can and, you know, the decade approach and getting the distance.
Yeah.
I think that then I would go to, well, first I would probably recommend let's create a better story. You know, if you just say I'm a bad tee box player, keep saying that, it's definitely going to come true. So I think that, you know, always evaluating where our mindset is. You know, if you walk, I had a client I was working with, and he said the second he steps on the green, he feels the sponginess of it, he goes into fear because he's had so much putting issues. And I was like, well, let's start reworking that story. You know, I want you to walk on that putting green and have confidence. I want you to recreate that story. So I think that the stories we tell ourselves are half the battle. So, and again, especially in your case, again, it's not like you're fighting a swing change or going through a lesson right now or have a new driver. Like everything's fine. So let's, you know, that's kind of the first thing I'd always go to is like, all right, let's start recreating that story. Like, yeah, I used to struggle with my driving. Moving forward, I'm a great driver, right? That's the attitude we're going to walk into it. What would a great driver do on the tee box? How would he act? How would he think? What would imagine you as, what's your handicap?
I'm a 5.
What do you want to be?
I'd love to be closer to scratch.
Perfect. Let's say you want to be just a 0.0,
Sure.
right? Scratch it up. Top 2% of all amateur golfers that carry a cap.
Yeah.
Now let's think about, what does future Nathan do as a 0? How does he walk on the box? What does he do? How does he carry himself? Does he walk on the box and think, I suck? Oh man, this is going to be bad. Or he's probably walking on there being like, where's my target? Yeah. I'm ready to go. You know, I did this on the range 5 minutes ago, you know, so start thinking about a new story. Let's start crafting that a little bit. I think that's one of the most important things. And then it comes down to the routine part. You know, I talk about this so much because it really is the differentiator between figuring out, was that a mental or a mechanical breakdown? So if you get up on the tee box, you're playing a fade. Let's just say you normally tee up on the right side of the box to open up the left side, play that little butter fade. Next up would be target selection. So have you done the mental golf type assessment just to figure out your 4 letters?
Yeah, I have. I am an INTJ.
Okay, perfect.
So
and did you feel like that was pretty accurate?
I did, yeah. And this is something we actually just recently spoke about, where I definitely am more target based, more like zones, not an aim small, miss small kind of guy. But we even were just just on the last episode, I was talking with Tyler about this, and I feel like I need to kind of augment what I've been doing. I've mostly been seeing kind of like big, broad flight paths, something like I don't know, a Mario Golf kind of like shot trajectory, shot
Yeah.
tracer, or something like that, but a super wide one that kind of gives me a lot of feeling of freedom. But I'm like missing these things completely, and so we've been talking about maybe trying to bring the target zone a little bit more into like my field of view, so like a window kind of thing. So I'm still not like getting super specific, but still something more, I don't know, closer to me, I guess. So I haven't had a chance to play with that yet, but that's
Yeah,
kind
because
of
I was going to
what
say
I'm
there's a
leaning
few
towards.
different ways, right? There's no like the aim small, miss small is great for some personality types. It's awful for me and you because we're both intuitives, and so that's going to kind of restrict it. So I think that learning that is key. I mean, you might be an intuitive like yourself, but you're thinking aim small, miss small because you read that in every book, and you don't hit it good off the tee. So that's the next thing I'd look at. So if you feel good about target selection, then like you said, it's figuring out how you're going to, or what you need to paint the picture for your mind. So as an extrovert, I like to verbalize. I like to talk out my shots. I'm literally on the tee box talking to myself, and I'm totally fine with it. And it gives my mind a ton of clarity. I'm not great at visualizing it. I can kind of say, hey, I'm going to hit it between this cactus and, this power line or these two trees. Like I'm good at picking zones, but I do better when I'm speaking out loud. As an introvert, you might not do as well with that. So again, it kind of comes down to testing this stuff on the range. But then, like you said, it's figuring out your target selection. So you could say, hey, I'm going to try and narrow that. Typically with like driver, you want to imagine like a 20-yard wide target if you can. So try to, create that zone. And then, like you said, you could either think about it, the direct flight right when it leaves. If you feel like you're too far like down and it's not something that resonates as well with you, or you could think about kind of mid-flight. Some players can imagine like a ball going through shattered glass, like they're on the big break. Some players imagine it going through a field goal post. Some people just like to look at where they want it to end at, and they're more means-oriented or ends-oriented like that. So there's a few different ways. So it's kind of a guessing and testing to figure out what works best for you. But I think, again, knowing your personality type is huge. So let's just say we pick one. You said that it was kind of let's mid-flight because you're saying that the long-range target's not really working.
Yeah, we'll break some
glass.
glass.
Let's just say okay, perfect. So let's now go to that tee box, and we'll think about exactly that process and how it should look. So let's get on there. We're, again, walking up. We know, hey, this is a driver hole, or hey, this is 3-wood, whatever it is. Like, let's just walk on with driver for this example's sake. Okay, this is driver. I'm going to play my fade. First thing we're doing is getting clear about that target. We're making sure, hey, I got my, zone set up. We're going to figure out if we're teeing up on the right side, left side, center of the box. We're putting the peg in the ground, get back behind it. We're getting super clear now. As an introvert, you probably don't need to talk it out, but in your mind, you're really like calculating it. You're getting super clear about that target, taking 1 to 2 practice swings. And then I just want you to walk in and, I want you to take a nice, big, deep exhale, and then you walk into the shot. At that point, the thinking's done. All right. We're focused on where we want the ball to go. We've picked that zone. We've picked the trees. We've picked our little flight window, whatever it is for you. And I want you to get up there. I want you to, you said IN. So as an N, you're also going to be better looking at the target versus down at the golf ball during your routine.
Okay.
So for you, I'd like to have you walk up. I want you to line the club face up to the intermediary target, confirm it looks good with the long range target, build your stance, look at that long range target a little bit more, give it a couple waggles, and go. 8 seconds or less, every study has found, is going to increase performance. So you might be lingering too long, you might be too short, but typically about 8 seconds or so in your stance, and you're going to hit better shots. You're going to hit more fairways, hit more greens, make more putts. Great European tour study that I can send you guys if you want to geek out on it, but it's really cool to read. And then the book as well, Golf's 8-Second Secret, same thing. So that's a big part of it. So that's where the mental game kind of comes into it is, are we committed to the target? Do we have the right routine? Are we spending our time looking at the ball if we're a sensor, or if we're looking up, if we're an intuitive? Like all these things can play a role, and then we have to accept it, Like if you hit a bad shot, okay, you're going to miss about half the fairways. But if you're consistently, missing it left and right, and your mental game is dialed, and you went through that process I just walked through, and you felt good about your targets, and you made a committed swing, and you hit some bad shots, then it's a mechanical breakdown. Then hey, I got to spend some more time on the range. I got to hire a coach or work with a training aid or just go back to some drills. But at least you have the right approach, because if you have that mindset and you're really committed, then again, it's a mechanical issue. So I think that would probably be my biggest thing, is that if everything's looking pretty good on the range, again, we're going to hit some left and right, but then it's just trying to figure out, okay, well, what am I doing differently on the course? Have Tyler record some videos, walk through it, send me a video and be like, hey, here's exactly what my routine looks like. You'll be shocked sometimes at how different your routine can look. Even if you practice it on the range, how different it can look in the course. And then especially when you get into tournaments, slower, faster, it's just funny how different situations do that, or even tight holes or narrow holes or holes you have some bad, trauma from. Sometimes you can still kind of linger on that. You still have some negative visualization on that too. So there's a lot of different things, but I would say that would be where I would go in terms of, if you're struggling off the tee right now, that would be how I would walk someone through that.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah,
Absolutely, man.
Just initially, what sprung to mind was, I think I need to expand my idea of what the pre-shot routine is, to even stepping onto the box, like you say, this is how would a +3 handicap driver of the ball step onto the box, and starting from then versus I've pegged it and I'm standing behind it and now I'm like, okay, now this is my pre-shot routine. So I'm gonna noodle on that and kind of expand, okay, just the whole thing is it's a different theater, I guess, than if you're kind of expanding it from just right before I hit the shot and the waggle and the practice swings and stuff like that versus the second I put the bag, the second I get to the tee box is it's on as far as routine goes. So I think
for some students I have a tee shot trigger, if I'm working with high school and college kids and they're walking, as soon as the bag goes, those legs come out, or the glove is Velcro, that's the start of it. And so it's you have to kind of figure out your performance bubble. So that way it's all right, this is my time to lock in, especially if extroverts like myself, we're talking too much and we're chatting with everybody. So it's you got to find your performance bubble. So it's this is my time. You only have to focus for 45 seconds a minute for every shot. People think you have to stay focused for 5 hours. That's not the case. You just got to have that minute of commitment, and then you can go wide and talk about sports and life and everything else.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hope it helps. Keep me posted too.
Oh yeah.
Michael, one of the things I ran into, so I played club championship these past 2 days. And
by the way, I love your commitment to all the tournaments.
Thank you.
I forgot to, I've applauded you on Instagram, but I love the commitment.
Appreciate it. Actually, and I was telling Nathan, but I'm really gotten lost in the sauce. I put in my notice at the golf club I belong to because next year I just want to play more tournament golf. And so looking at what a potential schedule could look like, it's I'd be paying to play in those events and then also be paying to not play at my club. And so I was
that's what I had to do eventually too. I had to leave my membership because I was I'm never there. It's $800 a month practice facility.
Yeah. So I was just I'm going to really commit to it. But anyway, so, I played in the club championship and this came up twice, once each day. And it was the first day I started off pretty strong, hit a good tee shot. I've really gotten over the first tee of first tee jitters on the tournament, because before I was always afraid of embarrassing myself, because I always thought I didn't belong there. I wasn't good enough to play in organized competitive golf. And I've gotten over that. So now I'm not afraid of completely missing the ball, because I know that's not going to happen. So I started off great par on the first hole, great par on the second hole. Made kind of made a bogey on the third hole, but I misjudged the wind a little bit and hit the ball, came up short in a bunker, and I'm not a strong bunker player. And so, but I also am okay with being with bogeys. I told myself bogeys are fine. They're going to happen. I put it in the bunker. Just don't do anything stupid and turn it into a double. Just make it, get it out, give yourself a putt at it. If it goes in, great. If it doesn't, it's no big deal. Next hole, hit a shot, didn't hit it great, came up a little short, but a super easy chip. I hit the chip to 5 feet, missed the 5-footer. Okay. Second bogey. Now I'm you know what? That one shouldn't have been that one shouldn't have been a bogey. Okay. Next hole, short par 5. Hit a drive. It got it clipped like the last branch on a tree, but it's such a short par five. It's like you punched it out, it ran through into the rough a little bit. And then I think I just got too greedy and I was like, I'm going to try to hit a perfect number shot out of this instead of just being like, hey man, just like hit it to the center of the green, see if you can make a putt. If you can, great. If you can't, it's a par. Came up a little short, didn't really execute on the chip, missed the putt, third bogey in a row. And it's like when that happens to me, when I get on that little bogey train, all of a sudden I can't, it's like my brain cannot conceptualize making par for the rest of the round. I'm like, well, cool. I'm going to make another, 12 bogeys in a row. I'm going to shoot like a 87. And thankfully, like I was able to reset, but it was like almost by accident. I just happened to hit a couple really good shots, and then I missed a 6 foot birdie putt, but it was like a par. Then I made another really good par, and then I made another really good par, and just kind of kept going. But when you get in, and then it happened, it started very early on day 2 where I 4 putted for double on 1 and then bogeyed the next 3 holes. And then I finished 2 over, but the next stretch of holes 2 over. But it's just like when I get that little chunk, and it always seems to come up, this little chunk of holes. It's like 3 or 4 holes where it's just like, I cannot, it's like it's happening to me. It's like I'm not part of I'm outside of myself watching myself do this. Do you like, A, have you experienced that? B, do you have any go-to methods of like snapping yourself out of that in the middle of it so that I can take that 4-hole chunk and maybe just get it down to 2, and maybe only have 2 bad holes, and then I can get it back a little quicker. That seems to be a big issue of mine from a scoring perspective when it comes to tournaments, and I've noticed it like the last 4 tournament rounds I've played. If I look at the scorecard, it's like, oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. And then everything else is fine. But it's just like, and it's not even like, because everyone talks about that, right around 14 is where like you start getting a little tired. Maybe you start getting a little nervous because you got a great round going. Like, and I've experienced that, but like sometimes it's the first 4 holes. Sometimes it's like 7, 8, 9. Like it just can kind of creep up anywhere. And I really want to be able to recognize that it's happening much sooner, and like have some tools to like, cut it off.
Yeah, well, yes and yes. I've definitely been there a million times. I mean, I've had my not my best year in tournaments this year, so I definitely feel like you're spiraling out of control, like trains off the tracks. You're gonna bogey and double every hole. You're gonna be in last place. I've been there. I fully understand that. And yes, I do have some strategies, and I think that there's a couple things. I'd say first off is understanding that that's probably always you're probably always going to still have that, right? Like that I don't know. I've been playing a long time, and I like I said, I've not had my best year. I've had some good tournaments, but I've had some really bad ones too.
Yeah.
And there's been those moments where even being a mental coach, doing this podcast, doing all this stuff, I still have those thoughts. So I think that one is like understanding that I don't know if that ever goes away. If it does, good for you. I just don't know if the Zen level exists at that level. So I think understanding that you're gonna have it, and then like we said, let's get into how can we fix it. So don't like personalize that when you feel like you're gonna bogey every hole and get last place. Like a lot of us love to like act like we're the only ones that's nervous on the first tee, or we're the only ones embarrassed after a 4 putt or a double start or whatever. Like everyone's been there. So I think that like understanding that's probably going to happen, and that's when you enter into tournament golf, it's always a possibility, right? You're playing by the rules of golf. Things are different. Tournaments bring out the nerves in us. So I think understanding it conceptually, like it could happen, right? So then it's like, what are our strategies to get over it? Well, first thing, kind of like I was talking about Nathan, how would the +2 version of Tyler react to that? How would you, and so I would say it starts with off course training. So I'm going to get into a couple off course trainings, a couple on course. So off course, how would you do it? Because, I have my students, visualize their rounds and journal them and write about them and get clear about what they want. But one of the problems that I always made early on when I would do that is I would just imagine these great rounds, making 12 birdies or making 5 birdies or whatever it was,
Yeah.
but I never was imagining all the bad stuff that's going to happen too. Not that I'm encouraging you to think about all the worst things, but when's the last time you ever played 18 holes and everything went right? Like it just doesn't happen. So it's like, I like the positive visualization, but we both know that stuff's going to happen. And so how are we going to adapt to it? So that's when you want to start thinking about off course. Well, how would I deal with that? Do I whine about a great drive that ends up in a fairway divot? Or do I just say, all right, there's I had a Dr. Rick Sessinghouse, Colin Morikawa's coach on my show. And he said, there's no bad lies. There's no good lies. There's just the lie, So it's like, okay, I go into it like, all right, well, that's in the divot. How do I play out of the divot versus the fairway? So it's like, you have to just have that, like, bad stuff's going to happen. How can I deal with it? So again, I like thinking about this stuff off the course too. So when it does happen, because it will, you're prepared for it. So you have a little bit of a game plan. So I think, again, always thinking about the future self, the guy you want to be, the best version of you. How does he act? How does he, deal with pressure? So I think that's one thing. Second thing we get into, there's a lot of different hacks. And that's the beauty of the mental golf world, is that you got to, learn some different stuff. There's not really, hey, do this, it will work for everyone. But I have a bunch of ideas. So one of them is I learned from Dr. Izzy Justice of Jira Golf, and he calls it the red card. So this is my double bogey red card. The red card is when things... are we allowed to cuss on the show, or is this?
Yes, please do.
When shit hits the fan and you feel like you're ready to slam a club, tomahawk something, break something, punch a steering wheel, throw a club in a lake. I've done all those. When you feel that mad, we got to figure out how to time out, right? We got to figure out how to get a clear separation from where we're doing. So I call that, he calls it the red card. I call it the double bogey or worse card. I had this happen to me in a tournament 2 weeks ago. I had a great drive, hit a okay second shot, ends up in the bunker. It's downwind. It's just a tough shot, and there's water on the other side. I hit a perfect shot, literally perfect, but it just was a little downwind, went all the way in the water. I have to make a 10-footer for double, made it. But I was, kind of fist pumped on the double because I was like, nice, good save. Could have been triple or worse. But then I'm like, oh man, we're mad. So basically the red card is, when we have like a really big shock to our system, like that double or that 4-putt or something that's like uncannily bad. It could be a shank, it could be a top, could be a, double or triple, blow up hole, whatever it is. Our mind starts racing, right?
Yes.
So our brainwaves, if you were connected, it would just be up, down, up, down, up, down. And you're just in so much stress. So your goal is to shrink your world as fast as we can and stop thinking about the next 12 holes. Stop thinking about, you're just the worst golfer. You're going to bogey everything else. You're going to get last place. It's so easy to go there. So our whole goal is to shrink it. And we go back to right where we are. So when I have a double or worse, I look at my red card. My red card, again, is basically memories or events, things that you're proud of. It could be your dog. It could be your wife. It could be a place you vacation at. It could be anything. It could even be a good golf memory, maybe a trip you go with your boys somewhere. Like, we're talking about positive things that have nothing to do with the tournament right there, just to remind yourself that none of this really matters. And we just have to kind of reset, because our mind is in fight or flight mode. And when that cortisol is releasing, you got adrenaline, you are not going to be able to hit that next tee shot very well. So we want to just kind of say, all right, let's, shrink it down, stop going in the future. Let's look at this red card and visualize it. So for me, one of my favorite memories is me and my girlfriend and our dog. We're at the dog beach. I'm literally imagining just how happy we are. We're having a good time in San Diego. I'm not thinking about that double bogey. So it just starts to calm me down. So my mind's like, hey, the saber-tooth tiger is not coming to kill us right now. We just made a double bogey in a tournament, right? It's not the end of the world. So it's shrink it down a little bit, okay? So that's one thing. The red card, again, I couldn't recommend this thing enough. I have used it in so many clutch events, and it has been there. It is so good. Second thing that he recommends to do is use your 5 senses. So when we're super stressed out, sometimes we just have to remember to get the 5 doors to the brain open a little bit. And the way we can do that is we're smelling, what are we watching? What are we looking at? What are we hearing? And try to identify it. So try and identify 3 or 4 different colors. Try and identify 3 or 4 different sounds. Start to, again, calm ourselves down. And that kind of goes right into the next point of slow down, right? When you're playing bad, that's when we're walking too fast. We're beating ourselves up. We're not going through our routine. So slow down, intentionally walk slow, sip your water. Don't chug it. Like literally just slow down. Cause again, we have one goal to get our brain to be like, okay, we're all right, safe place. You know, like that's
Right.
literally how we have to look at it. So those are a couple of things that I always do. And then maybe have some sort of like reset ritual. So, you know, for me, like I might switch gloves. I might use a new golf ball. I might take my hat off, you know, look out in the distance, take a few deep breaths, like figure out different ways. Again, I think all 3 or 4 of those are just a few. And then it's obviously you got to hit the golf shot, right? You got to get back into it. So then though, we're not thinking about, I got to make birdie on this hole. I got to hit a good drive. It's what's the shot right now? And then we go back to the whole process I walked through with Nathan is let's see how committed we can get on that routine. Jack Nicklaus said that, you know, after his bad holes and he would play more conservative, not more aggressive. Because after a big number like that, we got to just get a little confidence back. It's just one shot at a time. Just start building that momentum up a little bit. Because the doubles and worse, the score obviously sucks, but the momentum, because you work hard for that momentum, and all of a sudden it's gone. So in that example, after I made double, I looked at my red card. I took a few extra deep breaths. I put on my rain glove because it was so hot and it helps me when it's sweaty. It's kind of a little reset ritual. I was super committed to my club. It was a little downwind. I was planning to hit driver, but I knew it was so downwind. I was like, let's just hit 3-wood. I can swing a little bit more aggressive, kind of get some of the Hulk rage out of here. And then I hit a good shot and kind of bounce back. So it's like, you have to find what works for you. But again, these are some of the things that have worked really well for me. But I think the biggest thing is to not go so far in the future and you're already imagining just bogey. And it's easy to do. Like I've done it. Everybody's done it. But, you know, my whole goal with this brand is like to help reduce those number of blow up holes, to reduce that stress that you feel. And so hopefully maybe a couple of those tricks can help you out. But I think that, you know, acknowledging it also can help too. Be like, that sucked. Like that was terrible. Not like I suck. Again, very intentional with your language, but like that sucked, but it's over. How can I hit a good shot on this hole? Where's my target? You know, and then you go, it's so basic sometimes, but that's what you need. And I think the biggest thing though, if I could just close that loop, is to slow down. We have to get our mind calm, because if you're stressed out, you are literally not able to swing the golf club like you normally do. So you might have a mental breakdown there, but it looks like a technical one. You might hit a huge slice, but in reality, your mind's still beating yourself up over that shot. You're thinking about that, you know, drive or 3-putt or whatever it was. So it is a mental and technical battle at all times, especially when you're playing in tournaments.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good, that's a good point. Like the slowing down aspect of it, and then just trying to like recenter outside of like, not in relation to the moment, and it basically go on a quick mental vacation. You know,
that's a really good way to put it.
Come back a little bit recharged and say, okay, now I can, you know, I can address this situation that I'm in right now with a little bit clearer head. And I think, it's like, if I can just, and I think maybe part of it is like taking that conservative approach of, you know, kind of almost preventative, to say like, hey, if I make a bogey that I'm a little bummed about, and then the next shot isn't great, maybe for me, that might be an opportunity for me to say like, for instance, in the first round, when I made that bogey on 3, I really wasn't too upset about it. Cause just like, well, you know, I hit it in the bunker. I got it out, you know, I made a pretty good putt at it, and, you know, it was an easy 2-putt. Bogeys are going to happen. But then when I kind of didn't hit a great shot on the tee, I think in the back of my mind, I don't know if it was like very apparent to me, you know, in retrospect, it should have been, but it's like at that point, it should have been like, okay, I can see that I could potentially get frustrated here if the next shot doesn't go super well. So like, let's take a quick break. And then that way, if the next shot doesn't go well, it's not an extension of what just happened. It's just like, that is a new event that I have to kind of overcome. And at least I can trust that I didn't let what just happened influence this next chip. It's just, you know, maybe it was an execution error. Maybe it was, I picked the wrong club, picked the wrong line. I can learn from that. But if it's truly just like you did something dumb because you were pissed, it's hard to learn from anything other than like, don't do that, you know?
Yeah, those ones are super frustrating too, you know, because you're like, man, I wasn't even committed. No wonder I hit a bad shot. Like I was so super mad about it, you know? So it's like having that ability to be like, what can I like? Ask yourself a good question too. Like asking yourself the right questions can absolutely change your state of mind. So it's, how can I hit this shot good? What do I need to do here? Like literally ask yourself that. Slow yourself down and pose a good question. That we're always going to answer the questions we pose. Unfortunately, a lot of us are, why do I suck, or why did I do that? And your mind will give you an answer. But instead, let's use that and be like, how can I get out of this? How can I hit a good shot here? How can I get back on track? And again, I think that just having different rituals, I always say you have to learn all these different things and try them out, see what works for you. And like I said, I don't just use one. Like some days I'm more mad than others. Some days I'm physically exhausted. If it's a 4-day event, 110 degrees every day, like I'm tired. So, like you have to have different kind of tools in your belt. But I think that, you have to learn them, but then you have to remember to use them. I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes you get so enraged, you forget. And so it's like, you have to have that ability to just be like, how can I slow down to get that reset?
Yeah. And I like the idea of like writing stuff down and having something physical. Like, don't, it's like, how many times have you told yourself, I'll remember that? And then, you're like, God, there's something I'm supposed to remember, I think.
Oh yeah. My yardage book. I mean, I got distance things in here. I got mental stuff in there. Like, if you don't have a yardage book, just have a note on your phone that's right, top of mind. Put a note card in your pocket. Like, got to have little visual cues sometimes just to have that little reset. I have some of my students actually print out their pictures of their red card, and that works really good. Or, you could literally have the background of your phone be it. So you're just like constantly reminded of it, so it's like, it's easy to feel like it's life or death, but we're amateur golfers. We're not playing for, the ability to pay the bills and, keep the family fed well. So it's like, we got to reset sometimes. And I think that hopefully those are a few strategies that can help you out. And just remember though, it's okay if you have those negative thoughts, acknowledge them and then figure out a better one.
Yeah. So yeah, we're getting up on our time here. And so
I'll talk however long you guys want. I love golf.
I appreciate it. I had kind of one kind of closing. It's a 3-part type question, but it's
there's a Scantron exam that follows.
Yeah.
Oh God, I have PTSD.
Yeah. So, obviously I've gotten into tournament golf. I think like we've discussed it, Nathan and I in the past, on past episodes, that like, there's this, the competitive aspect of golf is something that, if especially a lot of new players and a lot of the people that I know listen to this podcast have really only found golf within the last 5 years. So I'd imagine most of them haven't even thought of the competitive aspect of golf, whether it's, playing money games with your friends or like organized tournaments. And so like, there's a subset of people that have never done it that may be looking to get into it, or they're like just starting and they're like, they still know what's going on, which was, me earlier this year. And then maybe there's this other group of people that I would consider myself now that have a decent amount of experience under their belt, but they're looking to make that next, level. Like, I want to make the cut at one of these events, or I want to, be somewhere near contention, at the club championship and not just like backdoor T10 or whatever. And then there's like the veteran who's like, I want to win, like that. I want to go out and win. So if you could sit down with each one of those groups and give like one nugget of wisdom to each one of those groups of folks, to that person who's maybe thinking about just getting into it and they know nothing about it, someone who knows a little bit about it and is looking to kind of make that next jump into, playing to their potential, making a cut, let's say. And then the person who's like, I've been doing this. I'm tired of making cuts. I'm tired of like not closing it out. I want to win. What's one thing that you could say to each one of them that you think could help them potentially kind of, crest that hill?
Yeah, solid question. And I think that I would just, blanket statement. I think everybody should try out a tournament at some point or another. It doesn't have to be a state event. It could literally be a 4-person scramble. It could be a 2-man, best ball. It could be, just something small. It could be just playing for money. But I do challenge everyone to get in the arena, and most people end up really liking it. But it's not, it exposes your game. And I think that's why a lot of people get worried about it. And at the end of the day, like, nobody's going to care if you shoot 90 and you're a 5 handicap. No, like, it's easy to do. I know when I was I had all
Yeah.
these like coworkers. Yeah,
We
look,
both did it like
trust
in
me, guys.
April. We both
I'm
did that
well
in
out there
April.
with.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yep.
I've
done it
thrown
this
up a few
calendar year.
mid-80s. Yeah, I've thrown up a few mid-80s this year. Don't worry. And it's easy to be like, what are people going to think about me? And then you realize nobody cares. Like it's
Right.
we're all like nobody
Or at
cares
least people
about like
that you
I
care
forgot about
about
my
don't
own
care.
game. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks about you as much as they think they do. Right.
Yeah.
So I think just having that perspective and being like, it is the ultimate learning opportunity. Because anybody that's a good player and then they go into a tournament, they're in for a rude awakening in a way that can be really good though.
Mhm.
So I think I just want to preface like, yeah, it's scary, but all cool things in life are going to be scary at the beginning. Get out of your comfort zone. Have the courage to do it. You're either going to meet people, you're going to learn from your game, you're going to learn that you like it, or you're going to learn that you don't like it. There's literally nothing to lose. Okay. So I think that's the first thing for anyone that's thinking about it. It is just so much fun, and it's an adrenaline rush that I have never felt other than jumping out of a plane, and it's a lot easier to do than skydiving, right? So I would say do that. Like, especially as men, like we need competition. We need to like have something to strive towards. Because like when you have a vacation coming up, you can circle it on the calendar. You're like, I got to get in shape, man. I got to like look good for this vacation. Like, you know, you have a tournament coming up. You're like, I should actually practice. You know, I should actually stick with the things I say. Like, seriously, like it's just the little things like that. Competition is great. So I think that's the first thing I'd say. And then let's go into each of the type of players. So first off, I would tell all three of those people to stop setting all of those goals. Those are horrible goals. I don't want you to try and win a tournament. I don't want you to try and make a cut. I don't want you to try and not finish last. I want you to go out there and play your game and swing one shot at a time. So that's the first thing. Again, blanket statement to all types of tournament golfers. I have 2 tournaments in Oregon next 2 weeks, guys, and I am not going in there to say I'm the defending champion. I have to win. That's the last thing I'm saying. I'm going to go out there and play my game and see what the golf gods give me and do my best. That's all I'm trying to do. So I think that's the first thing. Then we go into the higher handicappers that's just getting started. I would just say to practice like you play. I think that's the biggest thing. Tournament golf is such a rude awakening for so many people because they don't play by the rules of golf, and then they go out there. And if you're dragging 3-footers with your buddies all day, and all of a sudden you got a 3-foot little downhill slider in this first hole of the tournament, it's gonna feel like 5 feet, 6 feet. So practice like you play. I think that's really key. And play by the rules of golf. Like do that. I think that will automatically help you out a lot. And then to just remove as much expectation as you can. Like have a game plan. Like, hey, I'm going to, if you can always, like for all types of these players, play a practice round, have a game plan. I think that it's just so much easier when you go out there and hey, this is my driver hole. This is a 3-wood. This is, probably a 6-iron on this hole. Like whatever it is, like having a game plan, I think is great. Like I like to try and outsource my thinking to the days before the tournament. So, you're making a million decisions when you're on the course. And so if I can eliminate as many as I can, I've packed my stacks in advance. I have my outfit lined out. Like I'm trying to literally be like the billionaires that don't think they wear the black t-shirts all day. Like that's how I try and go into tournaments. So outsource your thinking and have a game plan. So I'd say that for the higher handicappers and practice like you play. For the mid handicap or the mid, kind of mid-tier guys that are getting more and more into it, to play with better players as much as you can. Try to find your way into some skins games, some money games, just, link up with some members that are maybe better than you at your club. Don't be afraid to lose some money and just get around them, because a lot of times you'll find that they're not that much better than you, or they are, and you at least know, wow, he hits it 50 yards past me. No wonder he's better than me. Like he has wedges in, I'm hitting mid irons. So I think that's good. And then you also can see how they think. Like a lot of times, it's just exposure. Like whether you want to be rich, hang out with like wealthy people. You want to be good at golf, hang out with people that are better than you. Like just learn how they think. And so I think that that's probably the biggest thing I'd say for that mid-tier group. And then for the ones that are, really competitive, to get in as many reps as you can. I play 50 to 60 tournament days a year. And I think it helps a lot, because if you only play a couple times a year, it's hard to, really get it together and get your game timed at the right area of your game. I think that's why, Tiger, as great as he is, I think it's hard because he only plays 4 tournaments a year, So it's like, right. I love that guy. I want him to win as much as anyone, but I just, like he says, I'm not getting in the reps. And so I think the same thing goes with those, low handicap guys, is to just try and get in as many tournaments as you can, even if they're small ones. Like it doesn't matter. Like a tournament's a tournament. As long as you have to sign the scorecard at the end of the day, you have to hang out with new people. Maybe some of them you like, some of them you don't like. Like you just learn more about it. You get comfortable. You develop your warm-up routine. You understand your triggers. You understand what you like when you're playing with certain players, what you don't like. So I think it's just kind of like a situational awareness. You just kind of understand that a little bit better.
Yeah, that's all. That's all fantastic, and I think everyone could probably glean a little something from each one of those tips. So, because I do think it's important, even for like me to remember, like when I'm just out playing, it's like no, maybe like go through your full routine on the
Mm-hmm.
little short shot, just to kind of continue to ingrain that, and so that it doesn't feel out of place. You don't feel awkward, yeah, I can take a little nugget away from each one of those things. So hey, Michael, we so appreciate you coming on the show. Like we said, we really enjoyed your book, and I enjoy everything you're doing on social media. We will be sure to put a link in the bio to the book on Amazon. It's also available on Audible, which is where we listen to it. And we recommend the Audible version specifically because there is the bonus podcast content that we found very, very valuable. Highly recommend listeners of this podcast go check that out if you want to be a better player and not, be a better player like tomorrow and not have to, go be balls at the range necessarily to make that happen. You can find Michael on Instagram at Wicked Smart Golf. So also link down there, and I'm sure you have links to other sites and stuff in your bio there. Yeah, and you can find us at Middown Podcast. You can find me at Fade and Fairway, at Nathan at Nathan.Furmasu. But Michael, again, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and we'll definitely have to have you on again. Hopefully, after I've had some successes in tournaments, and we can debrief.
Learn from it all, man. I appreciate you guys having me on, and thanks again for the book review and just the invitation on here. Appreciate what you guys are doing. Keep it up, and yeah, like I said, just keep learning from it all.
Thanks.
Enjoy the process.
Thanks, man.